There were voices on country radio in the 1960s that every American with a radio knew by name. Every truck cab on the interstate at 3 in the morning, every kitchen in Tennessee before sunup, they decided which records got played. One spin from the right man could start a career, but when country music decided who its legends would be, it kept the singers and forgot the men who put them on the air. These are 25 radio voices that built country music. Before we begin, subscribe so you do not miss any of our lookbacks. Number 25, Charlie Douglas. He had never driven a truck in his life. Charlie Douglas commuted into New Orleans to work nights at WWL 870 on the dial, and somewhere on that drive he worked out that there were thousands of men in the dark with nothing aimed at them at all. So he went to management with it. The station had a signal that covered half the country after sundown, and out in that signal were thousands of drivers with nothing aimed at them at all. They let him try. He called it the Road Gang. 7.5 hours a night, 6 nights a week, opening with 2 beeps of a truck horn. Records, road conditions, weather, and messages passed between drivers and the families waiting at home. By 1973, Time magazine was writing about it. He did not just host overnight trucking radio, he invented it. The man who took over the Road Gang is number 10 on this list. Number 24, Frank Page, October 1954. Shreveport, Louisiana. Frank Page was on the air at KCWKH, a 50,000-watt signal that carried the Louisiana Hayride into 28 states, and he had a young man to introduce who had 1 record to his name. He mentioned the boy was from Memphis and the record was on a small label called Sun. Then he brought out Elvis Presley. 2 weeks earlier, that same young man had played the Grand Ole Opry and it had not gone well. He wasn't asked back. Shreveport took him instead, and the Hayride kept him week after week while he turned into the most famous performer alive. Nashville tells the story now. The Opry is the cathedral, Sun Records is the origin myth, and the Saturday night show that actually gave him a stage sits outside the frame almost entirely. The man who ran that Hayride is number 13 on this list. Number 23, Charlie Walker. Charlie Walker was spinning records in San Antonio, and he was good enough at it that the trade magazines put him in the nation's top 10 country disc jockeys 10 years running. Then he did the thing disc jockeys aren't supposed to do. A young writer named Harlan Howard had a song called Pick Me Up on Your Way Down, and 3 men wanted it. Ray Price wanted it, Ernest Tubb wanted it, and Charlie Walker, the disc jockey, wanted it. They argued it out and gave it to Walker for one reason. He needed a hit. In 1958, it went to number 2 on the country chart. 2 of the biggest stars in country music had stepped aside for the man who played their records, and he took the song further than either of them would have. In 1967, the Opry made him a member, and he stayed one for 40 years. But Walker's name sits in the thin space between 2 categories. The country histories file him under disc jockey. The disc jockey histories file him under singer. Neither one keeps him. Number 22, Biff Collie. Biff Collie worked Houston radio when Houston was one of the biggest country markets in America. He pushed records, booked shows, and carried Texas country west to Los Angeles just as the West Coast scene got loud. His wife Shirley was a singer, and a good one. A producer paired her with a struggling young songwriter who couldn't get his harmonies to sit right with anybody else. Their duet became that songwriter's first chart record. His name was Willie Nelson. In 1963, Shirley left Biff Collie and married him. That's the kind of detail that survives about a disc jockey. Not the records he broke, not the artists he put on the map, a footnote in somebody else's marriage. The producer who introduced them is number 14 on this list. Number 21, Tom Perryman. Out in Gladewater, East Texas, Tom Perryman ran a show called the Hillbilly Hit Parade, and he was station manager before he was 30. Highway 80 ran from Shreveport to Dallas, and everybody working the Louisiana Hayride circuit came through on it. Perryman put them on the air. One of them was Elvis Presley, and he booked him into halls all over East Texas before anybody outside the region knew the name. He also got behind a smooth-voiced local man named Jim Reeves, who hadn't sold anything yet. That turned into a partnership, and by 1959, the two of them co-owned a station together in Henderson, Texas. Reeves died in a plane crash 5 years later. Perryman went on to run a station in Tennessee with his widow for the next 11 years. Then he went to WSM in Nashville and became the first regular disc jockey of an all-night country show on the biggest country station in America. Number 20, Hugh Cherry. Other disc jockeys studied Hugh Cherry. He worked Louisville, then Nashville, then Los Angeles, and everywhere he went, he did what his colleagues never bothered with. He learned the history. He knew where the songs came from, who wrote them, which recording came first. So he became the man the industry called when the story needed telling properly. He narrated documentaries. He lectured at colleges about country music when nobody thought it was a subject. In 1971, the Academy of Country Music named him Man of the Year, and he was one of the first 6 people ever put into the Country Music Disc Jockey Hall of Fame. The industry knew exactly what he was. It never occurred to anybody that the audience should know him too. Number 19, Rosalie Allen. In 1944, on a station in New York City, a woman started playing hillbilly records and yodeling on the air. The show was Prairie Stars on WOV, 6 nights a week for 12 years. Country music was southern and rural and male. New York was none of those things. She did it anyway, and Manhattan listened. She charted her own records. She opened a shop called the Rosalie Allen Hillbilly Music Center, one of the first record stores in America devoted entirely to country. And in 1947, she stood on the stage of Carnegie Hall at the first country concert ever held there, alongside Ernest Tubb and Minnie Pearl. When they finally created a Disc Jockey Hall of Fame, Rosalie Allen was the first woman in it. Every woman who came after her in country radio came through a door she opened, and almost none of them could tell you her name. Number 18, Bill Woods. Bakersfield was a long way from Nashville, and that was the entire point. Bill Woods led the house band at a place called the Blackboard, the loudest country bar in town, and he decided who stood on that stage. In the early 1950s, he hired a young guitar player out of Texas for $8 a night named Buck Owens. Owens worked that room until he learned to cut through a crowd with a bright, hard, electric sound. That became the Bakersfield sound. Woods hired Merle Haggard too, and Woods was on the radio the whole time, spinning records at Kern and later Cuz when Nashville wanted nothing to do with any of it. Buck Owens ended up on national television every Saturday night. Merle Haggard did something better. In 1972, he recorded a song called Bill Woods from Bakersfield, about the man who taught him to play guitar and sing in key. Number 17, Lee Arnold. In February of 1973, a New York station called WWHN did something that sounded like a joke. It went country. Manhattan, full-time. Lee Arnold was the voice that carried it, and WHN turned into one of the most listened to country stations in the United States. Not in Nashville, not in Texas, in New York. Both the Country Music Association and the Academy of Country Music named him Major Market Country Disc Jockey of the Year. Then, in 1987, the station dropped the format. WHN became WWFAN, the first all-sports radio station in America. The biggest country station in the country got turned into a place where men argue about baseball, and that chapter closed in a single day. Number 16, Nelson King. He was born Charles Schroeder. When WCKY in Cincinnati told him to pick a radio name, he opened a phone book and pointed. Nelson King launched a program called Hillbilly Jamboree in 1946. 4.5 hours a night on a signal aimed straight down the middle of the country, and it did not stop at the border. Canada heard him, Mexico heard him, parts of South America heard him. The show sold products by mail. Listeners sent $5 to the station, and the station kept a cut. King was so popular that the profits from the Jamboree alone paid every bill WCKY had, and they hired extra staff for one job: opening envelopes and counting money. A label trying to break a country song didn't have to work 50 markets. It had to get the record to Nelson King, and when the rival station across town gave up competing, it laid off its entire staff of live musicians and hired disc jockeys instead. One man on one signal ended live music radio in Cincinnati and pulled country music out of the South while he was at it. If one of these voices has stirred a memory, subscribe now and stay with me. The biggest names are still ahead. Number 15, Eddie Hill. Eddie Hill talked fast. He read fast. He moved through a shift with an energy that made 3 in the morning sound like midday. He came up through WNOX in Knoxville on the midday merry-go-round, sitting in rooms with Chet Atkins and Roy Acuff and June Carter before any of them were what they became. Then Memphis. Then in 1952, WSM gave him the overnight hours and put his name on them. The Eddie Hill All-Night Show. He wrote songs too. One of them, Someday You'll Call My Name, became a hit for Jimmy Wakely. And when the Opry went on television for the first time in 1955, Eddie Hill held the microphone. But the thing Eddie Hill actually did was hold the chair. WSM's overnight signal reached most of the continent, and whoever sat in that studio was, for a few hours a night, the most listened to country voice in America. 4 different men on this list sat in it. Number 14, Joe Allison. Joe Allison started where everybody on this list started, behind a microphone, playing other people's records. Then he wrote one. He and his wife Audrey put together a song about a man on a telephone, asking a woman to send another man away so the two of them could talk. Quiet, jealous, devastating. They called it He'll Have to Go. Jim Reeves recorded it in 1959. It went to number 1, crossed to pop, and turned Reeves from a singer into an institution. Allison did more than that. He produced. He helped build the Country Music Association out of almost nothing. He signed Willie Nelson to his first contract, and he was the man who put Willie together with Shirley Collie back at number 22. Say the name Joe Allison to somebody who owns that record and watch nothing happen. The song is immortal. The disc jockey who wrote it isn't. Number 13, Horace Logan. Horace Logan walked into KWKH in Shreveport at 16 and won an announcer's job in a contest. After the war, they made him program director and told him to fix a tired Saturday night show. What he built was the Louisiana Hayride. On one rule, Nashville refused to follow. The Opry wanted hit records before it would give you a stage. Logan wanted the people who didn't have one yet. The Opry banned drums and electric guitars. Logan let them in. So in August of 1948, 4 months after the first broadcast, a thin, troubled singer from Alabama named Hank Williams walked onto that stage. He went to Nashville the next year, and when the Opry threw him out in 1952 for drinking, it was Logan who took him back. They called the Hayride the Opry's Farm Club. Logan called the Opry the Tennessee branch of the Louisiana Hayride. And on the night of December 15th, 1956, when Elvis had finished and the crowd would not settle and teenagers were pouring toward the stage, Logan walked to the microphone and said the sentence that outlived every person in that building. "Elvis has left the building." He meant it as crowd control. "Please sit down. He's gone. Go back to your seats." It became the most quoted line in American show business, repeated by people who have no idea it was ever a real instruction from a real man trying to calm a real room in Shreveport, Louisiana. Number 12, Bill Mack, Fort Worth, Texas, 820 on the dial. WBAP, another clear channel signal thrown across America after dark. And Bill Mack owned those hours. They called him the Midnight Cowboy. In 1958, he wrote a song called Blue and recorded it himself. Nothing happened. Over the next 38 years, 4 other artists recorded it. Nothing happened for any of them either. By every measure the business uses, Blue was a failure, and the man who wrote it went on playing everybody else's records all night for decades. He never let it go. In the early 90s, he heard a girl on the Texas circuit and got the song to her family. Her father listened to the demo and threw it in the trash. She dug it back out. She was 13 when her version came out in 1996, and it made her famous in about a week. At the Grammys that February, Best Country Song went to Bill Mack. 38 years, 5 recordings, and 1 overnight radio man from Fort Worth who turned out to be right the whole time. Number 11, Tommy Cutrer. In 1954, Tommy Cutrer was driving to Nashville to start the biggest job of his life at WSM. He never made it. There was a crash on the way, and he lost his left leg. He took the job anyway. For the next 10 years, he was one of the most recognized voices in country music, hosting the overnight show, announcing the Grand Ole Opry, running a band with Floyd Kramer and Jimmy Day in it. In 1957, he was named the top disc jockey in the nation. Then he ran for Congress. He lost to a young man named Al Gore. And here is what tells you how people felt about him. Gore turned around and endorsed him for the state Senate. Cutrer won and served 4 years in the Tennessee legislature. He spent his life saying other people's names into a microphone. When a man makes his living that way, there is rarely anybody left to say his. Number 10, Dave Nemo. Remember the Road Gang? Back at number 25. Dave Nemo came out of that same WWL studio, filling in weekends behind Charlie Douglas, and when Douglas left for Nashville, Nemo took the chair. Then he did something almost unheard of in radio. He stayed. Trucking radio moved, clear channel AM to syndication to satellite, and at every step the format got more automated and less human. Nemo moved with it, still talking to drivers more than 50 years after he started. Every other name on this list belongs to a moment. Nemo outlasted the moment, the technology, and most of the stations. Number 9, Don Bowman. Don Bowman was funny, professionally funny, in a way that put comedy records on the country charts and won him a Billboard Award in 1966. But that is not why he is here. In October of 1973, a syndicated program went out to stations across America for the first time. 3 hours counting down the country chart, built by the same people who created American Top 40. For the first time, country music had one national chart, show the way pop music did. Don Bowman was the first voice on it. He held it 4.5 years, until his touring schedule made it impossible. The man who replaced him made the show his own so completely that most people assume he started it. That man is number 2 on this list. Number 8, Larry Scott. Larry Scott came up in Bakersfield around Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and Bill Woods, then took that music to Los Angeles and sat on KLAC for 15 years, working overnights aimed at truck drivers. He understood them well enough to cut an album of trucking songs himself. But the thing worth remembering is what he did for a band that had stopped existing. Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys defined Western swing and then scattered, the members playing single dates for whatever they could get. Scott and a few others found them, got the family's blessing, and put them back on a stage in Wichita. Standing Room Only, a band the business had written off, was a live act again because a disc jockey decided it should be. Number 7, Harold Hensley. Harold Hensley wanted to be a singer. He joined a band in East Tennessee, and when the station's morning disc jockey got promoted, Hensley took the shift instead. He never left. WNOX in Knoxville, the announcer's booth on Porter Wagner's television show, program director at WLAC. And in 1972, WSM, where he stayed 35 years and became what people called the Dean of the Opry announcers. He gave his own shows names you don't forget. The Early Bird Gets the Bluegrass, the Orange Possum Special. In 1975, the Country Music Association named him Country Disc Jockey of the Year. Radio chews through people. Staying is harder than arriving. Hensley held that microphone for 35 years, and outside Nashville, almost nobody knows he existed. Number 6, Ramblin Lou Schreiber. In 1947, an 18-year-old walked into a station in Niagara Falls and played country music on the air. As far as anybody can establish, he was the first to do it in Western New York. Ramblin Lou Schreiber spent the next 23 years pushing that music in a corner of America with no obvious reason to want it. Then, in 1970, he bought a station of his own and changed the call letters to WXRL after his own initials. He put his wife on the air. He put his 4 children on the air. He brought Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and Buck Owens to Buffalo when nobody thought that market existed, and he ended up the last independent station owner left in the city. He broadcast his regular morning show on the 26th of December, 2015. He died 22 days later at 86. Number 5, Cliffy Stone. Cliffy Stone was very good at hearing what other people missed. He played bass, hosted, produced records, published songs, and spent 20 years as a Capitol Records man when California country was supposed to be a lesser thing than Nashville. In 1947, he was running a show on KXLA in Pasadena and noticed the station's morning disc jockey, a big warm-voiced man doing a hillbilly character. He put him on the cast, and the next year built a Saturday night show around him called Hometown Jamboree. That disc jockey was Tennessee Ernie Ford. He recorded 16 tons, sold 4 million copies, and got his own primetime network series, with Cliffy Stone producing it. Ask 100 people who Tennessee Ernie Ford was, and some will know. Ask who found him behind a microphone in Pasadena, and you get nothing. Number 4, David Cobb. This one is a single phrase, and you have heard it your whole life. One morning in 1950, a WSM announcer named David Cobb was introducing an Opry program going out to a national audience, and reaching for something to say, He called the city Music City, USA. No campaign, no committee. A staff announcer filling airtime. It stuck. Onto letterhead, onto signs, onto the sides of buildings, into the name of an entire tourist economy, and into the way a whole country thinks about one American city. Most people in Nashville couldn't tell you it came from anywhere at all. They think the city was always called that. Number 3, Grant Turner. He walked into WSM on the 6th of June, 1944. D-Day. He stayed 47 years. Across 5 decades, the stars who walked onto the Grand Ole Opry stage were introduced by the same voice. The Opry sounded like the Opry because Grant Turner was the one saying so. The station made everybody retire at 65. They made an exception for him because the listeners would not accept anybody else. In 1981, the Country Music Hall of Fame elected him the first announcer or disc jockey ever to get in. He worked the Friday Night Opry on the 18th of October, 1991. He died 6 hours later. His daughter said that for all of it, he thought of himself as a piece of furniture, something in the room there to serve a purpose. Number 2, Bob Kingsley. For 40 years, Sunday morning in a lot of American houses sounded like Bob Kingsley. He produced American Country Countdown for 4 years before he ever hosted it. Then, in May of 1978, he took the microphone and held it 27 years, and under him, the show won the industry's syndicated program of the year 16 years running. He did it with almost no personality in the show business sense, no catchphrases and no stunts, just a low, unhurried, certain voice that made a chart position sound like it mattered. Artists talked about hearing him say their name the way other people talk about awards. When he left, he didn't retire. He built his own countdown from scratch and did it another 13 years until the year he died. And here is the strange thing about a voice that steady. It becomes invisible. Millions of people planned their Sunday around Bob Kingsley for 4 decades without ever quite registering that a man was doing it. Number 1, Ralph Emery. In 1957, a Nashville station called WUMAK fired him. Weeks later, he walked into WSM and took the graveyard shift 10 at night to 5 in the morning on a 50,000-watt clear channel that carried him into almost 40 states. He called it the longest air shift of his life, and he held it 15 years. The show was called Opry Star Spotlight, and Emery did one thing with it that changed everything. He left the door open. Any artist passing through Nashville could walk in at 1 in the morning, drink his coffee, and play a song, and they did. Merle Haggard, Loretta Lynn, Marty Robbins, Willie Nelson, because out there in the dark were the truck drivers and the night shift, and the insomniacs, and that was the entire working country audience of America awake and listening. He cut a record himself, too. In 1961, he answered Farron Young's Hello Walls with a song called Hello Fool, and it went to number 4. That job doesn't exist anymore. The signals got bought, the playlists got researched, the overnight hours went to a satellite feed, and the room where one man could decide who America cared about was quietly taken apart. Here is the thing about every name in this video. The industry knew. The disc jockey halls of fame are full of these men. They won awards, they got plaques, they got dinners. Grant Turner is in the Country Music Hall of Fame itself. They were not overlooked by the business. They were honored by it, and then filed somewhere the public would never look. The singer gets the record, the songwriter gets the credit, and the man who decided the record would be heard at all gets a signal that stops working at sunrise. They chose what America heard. They broke the songs, found the singers, named the city, and built the audience country music still lives on. Maybe tonight we brought a few of them back for a little while. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and watch the next video above.